Hannah's scream tore through the mansion, like a knife cutting through silence. The sound bounced off the marble walls, sharp, pained, terrified. In the bright kitchen of the Walker estate, normally filled with the smell of spices and warm food, Hannah stumbled backward, one hand clutching her stomach, her eyes wide with disbelief. Blood seeped between her fingers. Her breath trembled. She tried to steady herself against the counter, but her knees wobbled. Clara stood in front of her, frozen, a brown-skinned young maid in her early 20s, wearing a crisp black-and-white Maid uniform now stained with splashes of red. The stainless steel knife in her hand trembled. It was the same knife she had been using minutes earlier to cut vegetables. Now it glinted dangerously under the kitchen lights. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Hannah stared at her, confused, hurt, and shocked in a way that went beyond the stabbing. Her voice shook as she whispered, "Clara, why?"
Before we continue, if you believe our stories deserve to be heard, do me a quick favor. Hit the like button, subscribe, and share this video with someone who loves meaningful African tales. Let's keep our stories alive together.
The moment seemed to freeze. Beside them, the pot on the stove boiled over with a loud hiss, steam filling the air. Outside, the quiet hum of the mansion generator droned on, unaware of the chaos inside. And then, slow, heavy footsteps approached from the hallway. Billionaire Michael Walker, a tall, clean-cut man in his mid-40s with deep brown skin and a commanding presence, stepped into the doorway. For a split second, he didn't understand what he was looking at. He saw the blood. He saw his wife struggling to stay on her feet. He saw Clara's shaking hand still gripping the knife. His heart dropped. No, what have you done?" Michael breathed, his voice barely audible as he rushed toward Hannah. Hannah fell into his arms, her breath shallow. Michael held her tightly, his hands trembling as he pressed against her wound, trying to stop the bleeding. Panic flashed across his face, raw, unfiltered fear. Clara stepped backward, overwhelmed, tears spilling down her cheeks. I didn't mean, she wasn't supposed to see," her voice cracked, collapsing under the weight of her own words. Michael snapped his head toward her, "Put the knife down." Clara's hand shook so badly that the knife clattered to the floor. She covered her mouth, sobbing. I'm so sorry, I didn't know what else to do." Hannah looked up at her husband, her voice barely a whisper. "What is she talking about?" Michael froze. Clara's gaze met his. It was the look of someone who had run out of places to hide. "You told me to get rid of it," Clara whispered, trembling. "You said no one should find out." Hannah's eyes widened. Michael's breath caught in his throat. And right then, at the peak of the chaos, Hannah lost consciousness in his arms. Michael shouted her name, panic flooding his voice. Clara staggered backward again, hitting the wall behind her. Her legs weakened. Her heart pounded. Everything inside her screamed to run, but she couldn't move. This was never supposed to happen, not like this. She had only wanted to confront Hannah or maybe warn her, or maybe force Michael to finally choose her. She wasn't sure anymore. The emotions that led her here, betrayal, fear, desperation, had twisted together until she no longer understood her own intentions. All she knew was that the secret she had hidden for months, the secret Michael had begged her to erase, was now spilling into the open like the blood on the floor. Outside the kitchen window, the evening sun dipped behind the trees, casting long shadows across the room, as though the house itself were holding its breath. Someone pounded at the front door, the guards, probably alerted by the scream. Voices echoed through the hallway. Michael lifted Hannah into his arms, his shirt staining with her blood, and rushed toward the exit. But before disappearing through the doorframe, he turned his eyes, full of fear, anger, and something else Clara couldn't name, back to her. "This isn't over, Clara," he whispered. Then he was gone, leaving Clara alone in the kitchen. Alone with the knife on the floor. Alone with a secret that had just exploded in the worst possible way. Her hands trembled violently. She pressed her back against the wall, sliding downward until she sat on the cold tile floor. Tears streamed freely now. She wrapped her arms around her stomach, around the tiny life growing inside her that had started this entire mess. She sobbed harder. "I didn't mean to hurt her," she whispered to herself. I just wanted him to tell the truth." But she knew the truth. Nothing would ever be the same again. As flashing emergency lights pulled up outside the mansion, as guards shouted instructions, as chaos erupted in the home of one of the most powerful men in Atlanta, Clara realized something chilling. Whether Hannah survived or not, someone's life would be destroyed tonight. And she had no way of knowing if it would be hers, Michael's, or the innocent life inside her. Just then, the kitchen door creaked slowly open. A shadow stepped in. A silhouette Clara recognized instantly. Her breath caught. "Please," she whispered, not knowing whether she was begging for mercy or forgiveness. The figure stepped fully into the light, and Clara's heart nearly stopped. Clara's breath trembled as the shadow stepped fully into the kitchen. It was Michael. It wasn't a guard. It was Mrs. Doris, the head housekeeper, a stern, dark-skinned woman in her late 50s with sharp eyes that rarely missed anything. Her gaze dropped to the knife on the floors, then to the blood smeared across the tiles, then finally to Clara, curled up against the wall, hands trembling. "Child, what have you done?" Doris whispered, her voice low but shaking with disbelief. Clara swallowed hard, unable to speak. Her throat felt tight, choked by panic. Doris moved cautiously toward her, stopping a few feet away. The older woman's voice softened just slightly. "Talk to me. Tell me exactly what happened." Clara pressed both hands to her face, tears slipping through her fingers. "I didn't mean to hurt her, I swear, Ma. I didn't want this." Doris kneeled slowly, wincing from the stiffness in her joints. "Why were you in the kitchen with Madame Hannah? And why is there blood on your hands?" Clara's gaze drifted to her own fingers, faintly stained with red as though the truth was tattooed on her skin. "She confronted me," Clara whispered. I didn't even know she was in the house. She overheard something, I don't know what. She started asking questions about me and Michael." Doris stiffened. "And you thought stabbing her was the right thing?" Doris demanded, her tone suddenly sharp again. Clara shook her head violently. "No, she grabbed my hand when I picked up the knife from the counter. She wanted to see what I was hiding. I pulled away and it just happened." But even as she said it, Clara wasn't sure if she believed her own version. The moment had been a blur of emotion, fear. Shame, anger, heartbreak. She remembered Hannah's shocked expression. She remembered her own chest pounding so hard she could barely think. "I didn't mean to stab her," Clara said again, more quietly. I just wanted her to let go." A long silence filled the kitchen. Doris studied her face carefully, searching for the truth behind the panic. "You're hiding something bigger," she said at last. "What is it? What are you not telling me?" Clara lowered her gaze, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm pregnant." Doris sucked in a breath so sharply that it echoed around the room. "What?" "And it's Michael's." For a moment, it was like the air thickened. Doris stared at her, stunned, not because she couldn't believe it, but because suddenly, everything made terrible sense. The late-night calls, Clara's sudden mood swings, the tension she had seen in Michael's eyes whenever Clara walked into a room. "Oh, Clara," Doris murmured, pinching the bridge of her nose. "What did you get yourself involved in?" Tears rolled down Clara's cheeks faster. "I didn't plan it. I swear I didn't plan any of this." "And the madam, did she know about the pregnancy?" Clara shook her head weakly. "Number Michael begged me to end it. He said his wife must never find out. He said it would destroy her." Doris sighed heavily. "And now, what do you think this will do to her?" Clara closed her eyes. The truth stung. "I wasn't thinking," she whispered. I felt like my whole world was collapsing, like he was throwing me away." Doris didn't respond for a long time. Her silence was more painful than anger. Outside, the wail of the approaching ambulance grew louder. Sirens flashed against the kitchen walls, painting them red and blue. Guards hurried past the hallway, their voices urgent and panicked. "You need to stand up," Doris finally said, her tone firm again. "They can't find you like this." Clara shook her head, fear gripping her chest. "They'll arrest me. They'll take me away. I didn't mean to hurt her." "Intent doesn't matter right now," Doris snapped. "The madam is fighting for her life. Everyone is on edge. If you stay here crying, things will only get worse." Clara forced herself to her feet, shaky and weak. Her knees nearly buckled, but Doris caught her arm and steadied her. "You will tell the truth," Doris said, lowering her voice. "All of it, not half, not the version you wish happened. The truth. If you lie, you will hang yourself with your own words." Clara nodded slowly. But deep inside, fear twisted her stomach. What if the truth ruined her completely? What if Michael denied everything? What if the baby, her baby, would be punished before even being born? Her mind spun. The sound of footsteps thundered into the kitchen. Michael reappeared, this time with 2 private security officers behind him. His shirt was soaked in Hannah's blood. He looked at Clara with a torment that cut deeper than anger, guilt, fear, desperation. "Clara," he said slowly, "you need to come with me, now." Doris stepped forward protectively. "Sir, she is clearly in shock. Please let her." Michael raised a hand. "This is not a discussion." His voice, usually calm, controlled, cracked slightly, revealing stress beneath. Clara's heart pounded. "Michael, is she?" "She's alive," he said quickly. "Barely. They're taking her to the hospital now." Clara sagged with relief for a split second, until Michael added quietly, "But they're already looking for someone to blame, and the cameras show you were the last person in the kitchen with her." Clara's blood ran cold. Michael motioned to the guards. "Take her to the study, not the holding room. I'll handle this myself." The guards stepped toward her. Clara flinched, backing against the counter, her voice cracking. "Michael, please, don't let them take me away. I didn't mean." He closed his eyes, as though her voice pained him. As though everything happening was a nightmare he couldn't wake from. "We'll talk," he said quietly, "but Clara understands something." He opened his eyes again, and the look in them made Doris clutch her chest. This situation could ruin all of us. Clara stared at him, trembling. "What do you mean?" she whispered. Michael stepped closer, so close that only Clara could hear his next words. "If Hannah dies, everything changes." Clara's breath froze. Michael continued, "And if the truth about the pregnancy comes out, everything collapses." A chill ran through Clara's spine. Doris stepped forward again, suspicion burning in her eyes. "Sir, what are you planning?" Michael didn't answer her. Instead, he turned to Clara, and in a voice so low she barely heard it. He said the sentence that would haunt her for the rest of her life. "Clara, if you want to survive this, you will have to choose whose side you're on." Her heart stopped. The guards took her arm, and as they led her out of the kitchen, Clara realized something terrifying. Michael wasn't trying to save her. He was trying to save himself. And he was willing to sacrifice anyone, even her, to protect his empire. Clara's footsteps echoed down the long hallway as the guards escorted her toward the study. The mansion, usually alive with quiet elegance, felt colder now, heavier, as though the walls themselves knew what had happened. Every step made Clara feel smaller, guiltier, more trapped. The study door shut behind her with a quiet but final click. The guards stayed outside. Clara stood alone in the dim room, filled with polished wood, bookshelves reaching the ceiling, and framed awards from Michael's billion-dollar ventures. A soft lamp glowed on his desk. The room smelled faintly of leather and cologne. It didn't feel like a place for safety. It felt like a courtroom. Clara wrapped her arms around herself, trembling as she paced slowly. Her mind replayed the stabbing, Hannah's eyes widening, the blood, Michael's face twisting with fear. She squeezed her eyes shut, trying to erase it, but the memory carved itself deeper. The door opened again. Doris slipped inside before the guards could stop her. She shut the door quickly behind her and turned to Clara with urgency in her eyes. I'm not leaving you alone with him, Doris said. Not until I know what he wants. Clara swallowed. Ma, I don't think I understand what's happening. Michael, he sounded different. Angry, scared, I don't know what to believe. Doris put a hand on her shoulder. Listen to me. Men like Michael, they don't panic. They calculate, even when their whole world is burning. Clara looked at her, confused but desperate for guidance. You think he's trying to protect himself? Clara asked. I think, Doris said slowly, that your pregnancy scared him more than the stabbing. Whatever he tells the police will depend on what helps him the most, not what helps you. Clara's breath caught, but he said he'd talk to me, he said. A knock interrupted them. The door opened again. Michael entered. He had changed out of his blood-stained shirt, but his face looked like a man fighting 10 storms at once. Stress tightened his jaw, fear lingered in his eyes. Doris, he said quietly, I need a moment alone with Clara. Doris didn't move. Sir, with all due respect, the girl is frightened. She is barely standing. I won't hurt her. That's not what I'm afraid of. Their eyes locked, two people who had lived long enough in Michael's world to understand exactly how far power could stretch. Please, Michael repeated, but it wasn't really a request. Doris studied him carefully, then leaned close to Clara. If anything goes wrong, she whispered, shout my name. I'll be right outside. Clara nodded shakily. Doris left. The door closed. Michael exhaled deeply and ran a hand over his face before turning toward Clara. Sit down, he said gently. Clara hesitated, then sat on the edge of the leather chair. Michael took the seat across from her. For a long moment, he said nothing. The silence swallowed the room. Then, Clara, he finally began, I need you to understand something. What happened tonight can't leave this house uncontrolled. Clara's fingers twisted together anxiously. I didn't plan to hurt her, Michael. It happened so fast. I know, his voice softened, and I believe you. Then, with a sorrowful sigh, but that won't matter to the police. Her heart dropped. They will treat this as attempted murder, Michael continued. And with my status, the media will tear everything apart. They'll turn you into the villain, they'll tear apart our family, and they'll destroy my businesses while they're at it. Clara stared at him, stunned. So, what do you want me to do? Michael leaned forward, elbows resting on his knees. You must not tell anyone about the baby. Clara froze. Michael, her voice trembled. I thought you were going to support me. I thought you said you'd talk to me, help me. I am trying to help you, he insisted. But if this pregnancy becomes part of the investigation, they'll say you stabbed Hannah out of jealousy. They'll call it a love affair turned violent. They'll lock you up for life, Clara. Clara shook her head, tears filling her eyes. But that's not true. I didn't mean to hurt her, It doesn't matter what's true. He leaned closer. It matters what they can prove. Clara felt pressure in her chest, like she couldn't breathe. Are you telling me to lie? She whispered. I'm telling you to survive, Michael said softly. Her heart pounded. But what about you? She asked. If Hannah finds out you lied that you got me pregnant. Michael looked away, jaw tightening. Then he stood abruptly and walked to the window, staring out at the flashing ambulance lights disappearing down the driveway. Clara, he said without turning around, if she wakes up, everything changes. A sharp chill ran down her spine. What do you mean? Michael didn't answer immediately. His voice, when he finally spoke, was low, heavy. Hannah wasn't supposed to find out about us. Not like this. I didn't want to hurt her, and the truth is, she might not survive. Clara gasped softly. Michael turned to face her, his expression unreadable. If she dies, Clara, the world will believe you killed her out of jealousy, unless you do exactly what I tell you. Clara's stomach twisted violently. What are you asking me to do? His gaze didn't waver. Deny everything. Deny knowing me personally beyond being your employer. Deny any argument. Deny that she confronted you. Deny that anything led to the struggle. She shook her head repeatedly. But the cameras. The cameras didn't record your conversation, Michael said. Just that you were in the kitchen with her. And if she wakes up, Clara's voice was small, terrified. Michael's face hardened. If she wakes up and tells the truth. He paused. Then we both lose everything. Clara swallowed hard, gripping the arm of the chair as panic wrapped around her like a rope. This wasn't love. This wasn't protection. This was control. And she finally saw the truth. Michael wasn't trying to save her. He was trying to shape her into the perfect story. One that saved him first. Suddenly, Doris burst back into the room, breathless. Sir, something happened. Michael's head snapped toward her. What is it? Doris hesitated, eyes shifting between Clara and Michael. The hospital just called, she whispered. They said Hannah woke up. Michael staggered back a step, shock slamming into him. Clara's hands flew to her mouth. Doris continued, her voice dropping even lower. And they said the first thing she asked was, "Where is my husband? I know what he did." The room froze. Michael's face drained of color. Clara's heart pounded so loudly, she thought the floor might shake. Everything had just changed. The room felt colder than before, as if Hannah's words, spoken miles away in a hospital room, had seeped through the walls of the mansion. Michael stood still, his jaw tight, his breath caught in his throat. Clara watched him carefully, her heartbeat pounding beneath her ribs. Doris closed the study door behind her, lowering her voice. "Sir, they want you at the hospital immediately." Michael ran a hand across his face, frustration spilling through his fingers. Of course they do. Hannah must have told them something. Clara swallowed hard. What if she tells them everything? What if she tells them about us? Michael's eyes darted to hers, sharp and filled with fear. She can't. She won't. Not if she's thinking straight. Doris scoffed. And what makes you think she isn't thinking straight? She woke up after being stabbed. People don't hold back after that. She'll say exactly what she remembers. Clara sank deeper into the leather chair, her throat tightening. Every second that passed, her world tilted further out of control. The thought of Hannah talking, revealing the affair, the pregnancy, everything, sent a wave of nausea through her. Michael straightened his shirt, adjusting it as if preparing for a board meeting instead of a marital catastrophe. "I need to get ahead of this," he said. "If the police question Clara, I need to know exactly what Hannah told them." Clara's voice cracked. "Michael, what am I supposed to say if the police come back here? They're already watching me." Michael paused, then walked toward her, kneeling in front of her with an expression she couldn't read. "Clara, I need you to trust me," he said softly. She hesitated. "Do I have a choice?" His silence spoke louder than words. Doris stepped between them, her tone firm. "Sir, you need to think very carefully before you ask this girl for anything more. She is scared, confused, and alone, and she is pregnant with your child. Don't make her carry the burden of your mistakes." Michael shot Doris a warning glare, but she didn't flinch. "You may pay her salary," Doris said, "but I raised you, and I'm old enough to tell you when you're about to ruin every life in this house, including your own." Clara looked at Doris, with gratitude warming her fear-frozen heart. Michael stood slowly, pushing back his frustration. "Both of you stay here. Don't talk to anyone. Don't answer any calls unless it's me." He walked toward the door. But before leaving, he turned back, his voice colder this time. "Clara, don't say anything about the baby. Not yet." Clara clenched her hands together, her stomach tightening. "Michael, are you protecting me, or protecting yourself?" Michael stared at her for a long moment. Then he left without answering. The door clicked shut. Clara exhaled, finally, but it came out shaky. Doris pulled a chair closer and sat beside her. "You need to breathe, child," Doris said gently. "If you break down now, you won't make it through what's coming." Clara wiped her eyes. "Ma, Doris, what if Hannah tells them about the affair, about the baby? What happens to me then?" Doris sighed deeply. "Then you tell the truth, all of it, even the parts that hurt." She hesitated. But Clara, there's something you need to be sure of. Clara looked up slowly. You need to stop believing Michael will save you, Doris whispered. Because right now, it looks like he's only trying to save himself. Clara's shoulders trembled. She wrapped her arms around herself, staring at the floor. It hurt to admit that Doris might be right. He said he would talk to me, Clara whispered. He said we'd fix this. He said what he needed to say to calm you down, Doris replied. Powerful men don't fix problems by taking blame. They fix them by shifting blame. Clara felt her throat tighten again. A knock startled them both. Doris went to the door, but before opening it, she whispered to Clara, Stay calm. Let me talk. She opened it just a few inches. A uniformed police officer stood there. Good evening, he said. His voice was polite, but his eyes were sharp. Is Clara Johnson inside? Clara froze. Doris lifted her chin. Yes, she's here, but she needs rest. She's been through a lot. The officer nodded. We understand, but we need a brief statement from her tonight. Mrs. Hannah Walker has regained consciousness. Clara's heart dropped. What did she say? Clara asked, her voice shaking. The officer glanced at her from the doorway. We'll discuss that when we take your statement. Doris stiffened. Take her statement, here or at the station. At the station, he replied. Clara gasped. No, please, I can't go there. I didn't mean to hurt her. Clara, the officer said calmly, we're not here to arrest you. We just need to clarify a few things. Doris stepped forward. She is not leaving this house without her lawyer present. The officer nodded again. Mr. Walker is on his way to meet us at the hospital. He said he'd contact his lawyer to represent her. Doris's eyebrows pinched. That wasn't reassuring, it was suspicious. Clara wiped tears with the back of her hand. Do I have to go? The officer softened slightly. Yes, but you'll be safe. It's better you talk before things get worse. Clara looked at Doris for strength. Go, Doris whispered. But remember what I said. Don't lie. Don't create stories. Tell the truth exactly as it happened. Clara nodded, trembling. The officer opened the door wider, and Clara walked past Doris, feeling the world grow heavier with every step. As she reached the corridor, she whispered, Ma, if Hannah tells them everything, will I go to jail? Doris held her gaze. It depends, Doris said quietly. Not just on what Hannah says, but on what Michael does next. Clara swallowed hard. Because suddenly, she understood something terrifying. She wasn't just fighting the consequences of a mistake. She was fighting a man who had the power to rewrite her fate. A man who now had something to lose. As the officer guided her toward the exit, Clara glanced back at the mansion, its grand walls, its expensive lights, its silent halls. She entered this place as a maid, but she might be leaving it as a suspect. Or something worse.
If this story is already touching your heart, please take 1 second to like this video, subscribe to Black Race Tailies, and turn on notifications. Your support helps us keep telling these powerful African and Black community stories to the world.
The police car cut through the quiet Atlanta night, its blue lights casting flashes across Clara's face as she sat in the back seat. Her hands were clasped tightly in her lap, trembling so much she kept pressing them against her thighs just to stop the shaking. The officer beside her didn't speak, and the silence made her mind replay the entire night over and over again. Hannah's scream, the blood, Michael's fear-filled eyes, Doris's warning. She wasn't sure which hurt more, the memory of the knife slipping from her grip, or the realization that she might be walking straight into a trap. When the car pulled up to the station, Clara's breath hitched. She stepped out slowly, the cool night air brushing against her skin. The officer guided her inside to a narrow hallway that smelled faintly of disinfectant and old files. He led her to a waiting room with 2 plastic chairs and told her someone would speak to her shortly. Clara sat, rubbing her palms against her skirt. She wanted to cry, to scream, to run back home, but she stayed still, because running would only make her look guilty. She focused on steadying her breathing. In, out. In, out. The door opened. Clara tensed. Michael walked in. But this was not the Michael she knew, neat, controlled, charismatic. This Michael looked exhausted and unsteady. His tie was loose, his eyes bloodshot, his expression haunted. He stepped inside and closed the door softly behind him. "Michael," Clara whispered. He didn't answer immediately. He just stared at her, as though trying to decide what version of himself he needed to be with her. Finally, he spoke. "You shouldn't have come here alone." "I didn't have a choice," Clara said, her voice shaking. "They said Hannah woke up. They said she asked for you. What did she say? Michael, what did she tell them?" Michael ran a hand across his forehead. "She told them. She remembered hearing voices in the kitchen before she fainted." Clara's heart tightened. "Voices? Did she say it was me?" "No," Michael said. "Not yet. She said she remembers feeling dizzy and then pain, but she didn't clearly say you attacked her." Clara sagged in relief, though fear lingered beneath her ribs. "But," Michael continued, "she also said she heard someone use my name." Clara's breath froze. "But it wasn't me she heard," Michael said quickly. "At least not directly. She said she heard, 'Michael can't know.' That's what she told them." Clara's mind raced back to the moment Hannah confronted her. Clara had whispered to herself, "He can't know about this. Not yet, not like this." She hadn't realized Hannah heard it. "That's why they brought you here," Michael said. "They want to know what you didn't want me to know." Clara's voice cracked. "So what do I say? What am I supposed to tell them?" Michael sat beside her and grabbed her hands. "You tell them you were helping in the kitchen, that Hannah slipped, that the knife fell." Clara stiffened. "That's not what happened," she whispered. "It doesn't matter," Michael said firmly. "If you tell them the truth, that she confronted you, that we—" He stopped himself, lowering his voice. "Clara, if you tell them about the affair or the pregnancy, they will twist everything. They will destroy you." "And what about you?" Clara asked, her voice breaking. "Will they destroy you too?" Michael looked away. "I'll be fine." That answer, that casual confidence, broke something inside her. "So I lie to protect your reputation," Clara whispered. "But who protects me?" Michael froze. Clara's voice trembled, but she didn't stop. "I gave you everything. I trusted you. I believed every word you said. And now you tell me to lie for you, to save you? What about the baby? What about my life, Michael?" Michael closed his eyes, breathing shakily. "This is the only way," he insisted. "If the truth comes out, everything collapses. My marriage, my business, my public image. And you." He looked at her, eyes full of fear. "They'll bury you in prison, Clara." Clara felt her breath catch in her throat. A knock sounded on the door. A female officer stepped inside. "Mr. Walker, we're ready for her statement." Michael stood. "Give us 1 more minute." The officer nodded and stepped out. Michael turned back to Clara, his voice low. "You have to trust me," he said. "I'll get you through this, just follow my lead." Clara stared at him. "What if I do?" she whispered. Michael's expression hardened, not with anger, but with something far more chilling. "Then, Clara, you will be standing alone against the entire system, and I won't be able to help you." He walked toward the door. Before leaving, he said, "I'll be outside. Say nothing that ties me to you. Nothing." The door closed. Clara sat still, her heartbeat pounding in her ears. Michael said he would help her, but he also said he needed the baby gone. And now he needed the truth gone. Doris's voice echoed in Clara's mind. "Men like Michael don't save you. They save themselves." The door opened again. "Ms. Clara Johnson," the officer called. Clara stood, her legs shaky. As she followed the officer down the hall toward the interrogation room, she felt something she hadn't felt since the night began. A spark of defiance. Maybe tiny. Maybe weak. But alive. Because for the first time, Clara realized something powerful. She wasn't just a maid. She wasn't just a mistake. She wasn't just Michael's secret. She was a woman fighting for her life. And for the child she carried. and she would not let fear silence her forever. The door to the interrogation room opened. Clara stepped inside, and just as she sat down, the lead detective entered, a middle-aged man with sharp eyes. He placed a file on the table, opened it, looked Clara directly in the eyes, and said, "Ms. Johnson, Hannah woke up again, and she just told us something new." Clara's hands tightened on her lap. The detective leaned forward. "She says the attack wasn't an accident." He paused. "She says someone wanted her dead." Clara's breath stopped. "And she says..." The detective's eyes didn't blink. "She knows exactly who did it." Clara's pulse hammered against her throat as the detective stared at her across the cold metal table. The harsh fluorescent light above them flickered slightly, casting uneven shadows across his face. His tone was calm, but his eyes were sharp too sharp. "Ms. Johnson," he said again, sliding the folder closer to himself, "Hannah says she remembers someone attacking her. She claims it wasn't an accident, and she says she knows the attacker." Clara swallowed hard. Who did she say it was? The detective didn't answer immediately. He lifted a piece of paper, notes from the hospital call, and tapped the edge against the table. "She didn't give a name yet," he replied finally, "but she described the person. She said it was someone in the house, someone young, someone she had seen around the kitchen often." Clara's chest tightened. She said the attacker had a reason, a secret. Clara's fingers curled into fists on her lap. "Ms. Johnson," the detective said quietly, "is there something you want to tell me?" Clara shook her head quickly. "No, I didn't attack her. I swear I didn't mean to hurt her. I was cooking and she startled me and the knife." The detective raised a hand gently, stopping her. "We are not here to accuse you unfairly," he said. "We are here to understand what happened. Mrs. Walker's memory may be confused, but we also have footage showing you were alone with her." Clara felt a tear slip down her cheek. "Why was she confronting you?" he asked softly. "Why were you arguing?" "We weren't arguing," Clara whispered. "She grabbed my hand, the knife slipped, I didn't." The door opened. Michael stepped inside. Clara's breath caught. His face was calm, too calm, the kind of calm that made Doris's warning echo in her mind again. "Detective Harris," Michael said smoothly, "may I speak with you a moment?" The detective glanced at Clara, then nodded and stepped outside with Michael. The door shut. Clara sat frozen, her heart racing, her hands trembling violently. She didn't know whether to be grateful Michael was here, or terrified of what he might be saying. She leaned forward, straining to hear through the door, but their voices were too muffled. Footsteps, low murmurs, then silence. The door reopened. Detective Harris returned first, his face unreadable. Michael followed, standing behind him with his arms crossed. "Ms. Johnson," the detective said, "we're going to pause your statement for now. We need to verify some new information." Clara frowned. "New information?" "Yes," the detective replied. "Mr. Walker just told us something important, something we didn't know before." Clara turned to Michael, panic rising. "Michael, what did you say?" Michael didn't look at her. The detective continued, flipping the file shut. "He said you've been struggling emotionally the past few weeks, that you've been unstable, quick to anger, easily overwhelmed." Clara felt the air leave her lungs. "He said you were under stress, that he noticed you crying often. He said you weren't yourself lately." Clara's mouth fell open. "That's not true. Michael, why would you say that?" Michael's expression didn't change. The detective leaned forward again. "Ms. Johnson, is there a reason you've been under stress? Anything personal we should know?" Clara's heart pounded. Her hand drifted unconsciously to her stomach, but she quickly pulled it back. She couldn't tell them. Not in front of Michael. Not when the baby's existence was the one thing he wanted erased. I can't talk about that," Clara whispered. "So there is something," the detective said, his voice firm but gentle. Clara shook her head. "It's not what you think." "Then help me understand," Harris said. Help me see your side. Clara wiped her cheeks quickly. I didn't attack her, I didn't plan anything. I panicked. She grabbed me and I reacted. It was an accident. Please, please believe me. The detective studied her for a long moment, then stood. We're not arresting you, Ms. Johnson, he said. But we will need you to stay available. Don't leave the city. When Hannah is stable enough to talk again, we will take her full statement. Clara nodded shakily. Michael touched the detective's shoulder. Thank you, I'll take her home. The detective left them alone. Clara immediately turned to Michael, her voice breaking. Why did you say those things about me? Why make me sound unstable? Michael sighed and rubbed his forehead. Clara, listen, this is bigger than you think. I have to make sure the story fits. If they believe you were overwhelmed, then they'll believe Hannah startled you and the knife slipped. It supports the accident narrative. But it makes me sound dangerous, Clara whispered. It makes you sound human, Michael said calmly, and it protects both of us. Clara's stomach twisted painfully, but it wasn't the truth. Michael leaned close, lowering his voice. The truth doesn't matter right now. Only survival does. Clara pulled back from him. No, Michael, this isn't protecting me. You're shaping the story so it benefits you. Michael stiffened. Clara, you're setting up a narrative where I look emotional, confused, unpredictable, so that if things go wrong, you can walk away clean. Isn't that the plan? Michael's jaw tightened. He said nothing. Clara shook her head, tears spilling again. I'm pregnant, Michael. I'm carrying your child, and you're preparing the ground to let me take the fall. Michael closed his eyes, pained. Clara, don't say that. Why? She snapped. Because it's true. Michael opened his eyes again, softer this time. I swear I'm trying to help you, he said. But you have to help me too. Hannah is awake and she's talking. She could destroy everything. We need to stay aligned. Clara stared at him, really stared, and for the first time, she saw something she had been too blinded to see before. Michael wasn't choosing her. He was choosing control. And the baby inside her. He saw it as a problem, not a life. The door opened. Doris rushed in, her face pale and tense. Clara, I came as fast as I could. What's happening? Clara stood, her knees weak, and walked straight to Doris, burying her face in the older woman's shoulder. Doris wrapped her arms around her protectively. Michael stepped forward. Doris, please stay out of this. Doris shot him a glare sharper than any knife. You lost the right to tell me that the moment you dragged this girl into your mess. Michael opened his mouth, but Doris raised her hand. No, she said firmly, not another word. She turned to Clara. Come, we're going home. Clara's breath trembled. Home. Yes, Doris said, but not Michael's home, my home, somewhere safe. Michael's eyes widened. Clara, don't go with her. The police will want to reach you. You can't disappear. Doris responded before Clara could speak. She's not disappearing, Michael. She's escaping. Clara hesitated, then stepped behind Doris, choosing her protection. Michael's face hardened with frustration and fear. Clara, he said, voice low and desperate, if you leave with her, you're choosing a side you can't come back from. Clara paused in the doorway. For a long moment, she didn't breathe. Then she said softly, maybe it's time I finally choose myself. Michael flinched, just slightly. Doris took Clara's hand, and together they walked out of the station. But just as they reached the parking lot, Doris's phone rang. She answered. Her face changed instantly, eyes widening, mouth parting in shock. Clara, she whispered, lowering the phone slowly. What is it? Clara asked, fear rising again. Doris turned to her, voice trembling. That was the hospital. Clara froze. Hannah, she's asking to see you. Clara stood frozen beside Doris in the dim hospital parking lot, the cold air brushing against her skin. She felt as if she had been struck by lightning. Hannah wanted to see her. Not Michael, not the police. Her. Clara's voice trembled. Why would she ask for me? Doris slipped her phone into her pocket. I don't know, child, but if she's asking for you, it means she remembers something, and it means she's strong enough to talk. Clara's legs felt weak. Ma, what if she wants to accuse me? What if she hates me? Doris touched her arm gently. You can't run from this, Clara. Whatever she wants to say, you must hear it. Clara nodded slowly. Fear coiled deep in her stomach. They walked toward the entrance, the automatic doors sliding open silently. The hospital was bright, sterile, filled with soft beeping and murmured voices. Nurses moved quickly from room to room, and the scent of antiseptic lingered in the air. A nurse approached them. You're Clara Johnson. Clara swallowed. Yes. She's awake, the nurse said. Weak but conscious. She insisted on speaking with you privately. Doris stepped forward. I'm coming with her. The nurse shook her head. She asked for Clara alone. Doris stiffened. After everything that's happened, you expect me to let this child enter that room by herself. The nurse murmured sympathetically. I understand, but those were her exact words. Clara placed a hand on Doris's arm. It's okay, I'll be fine. Doris searched her face. Are you sure? Clara nodded. I have to face this. A deep breath. A steadying step. The nurse guided Clara down the hallway. Each step echoed loudly in Clara's ears. The closer they got, the harder her heart thudded. Her palms were damp, her throat tight. Finally, they stopped at a door. Room 208. The nurse pushed it open gently. Go on. Clara stepped inside. The room was dim, lit only by a small lamp beside the hospital bed. Machines beeped softly. Hannah lay there, pale, tired, eyes half open. Her chocolate-brown skin seemed dull under the hospital lighting, and an oxygen tube sat beneath her nose. Clara's breath caught. Hannah turned her head slowly, and their eyes met. There was no hatred. No rage. Just exhaustion, and something deeper. Clara stepped closer, her voice barely a whisper. Mrs. Hannah, I'm so sorry, I never meant. Hannah raised a weak hand, stopping her. Sit, she whispered. Clara pulled a chair close and sat, her hands trembling. For a long moment, Hannah stared at her, studying her face, her expression, her fear. Clara, Hannah said slowly, her voice thin and raspy, I know about the baby. Clara's heart dropped. I can explain, Clara began, tears welling. Hannah shook her head gently. I heard you tell him earlier, before everything went dark. I wasn't supposed to hear, but I did. Clara covered her mouth, horrified. Mrs. Hannah, I'm so sorry. I didn't want this to happen. I didn't plan anything. I tried to stay away, but he... Hannah spoke again, her voice stronger than before. Clara, I don't blame you. Clara froze. She couldn't believe her ears. You do. Hannah closed her eyes briefly, as though gathering strength. Number Michael is a charming man, too charming, and he has hurt people before when he thinks he won't get caught. Clara felt her breath trembling. He told me he loved me. He told me. He tells people whatever keeps his world intact, Hannah interrupted softly. But when I confronted him last year about another woman, he denied it so smoothly, I thought I was losing my mind. Clara blinked. Another woman. Hannah nodded faintly. You're not the first, but you are the first who ended up in this much danger. Clara's lips parted, her voice breaking. Mrs. Hannah, I didn't mean to stab you. I was scared. I panicked. You grabbed me and the knife. I know, Hannah whispered. I remember. Clara covered her face, sobbing quietly. Relief and guilt crashed over her like waves. Then Hannah said something Clara never expected. You're not safe with Michael. Clara lifted her head slowly. What do you mean? Hannah's eyes glistened, not with tears, but with a truth too heavy to carry. Michael is not going to protect you, Clara. He is going to protect himself, even if it means sacrificing you. Clara wiped her face. He said he was going to fix everything. Hannah let out a tiny, tired laugh. Fix it? He's trying to shape the story to make you look unstable, emotional, unpredictable, someone who could be blamed if things go wrong. Clara's chest tightened painfully. He said that's how we survive. He meant that's how he survives, Hannah said. Silence filled the room again, thick, heavy, suffocating. Then Hannah slowly reached under her pillow and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Her hand trembled as she extended it toward Clara. Clara hesitated, then took it. "What is this?" she asked softly. "A statement," Hannah whispered. "My truth. I wrote it down in case my memory failed again." Clara unfolded it. Her eyes widened. The statement explained everything. How Hannah suspected Michael was cheating. How she overheard Clara whisper Michael's name. How she confronted her, and how the stabbing was an accident caused by panic. But then Clara saw something that made her chest tighten. The last paragraph exposed Michael's lies. His manipulation. His previous affairs. And his threats. Clara's breath trembled. Why give this to me?" "Because," Hannah whispered, "if anything happens to me, you need to protect yourself, and that baby." Clara covered her mouth. Hannah continued, voice fatting once more. "Don't trust him, Clara. Promise me you'll protect yourself." Clara nodded through tears. "I promise." Suddenly, Hannah's monitor beeped louder. Her breathing grew shallow. The nurse rushed inside. "Ma'am, are you okay, Hannah? Stay with me." Clara stood, startled, her heart in her throat. The nurse shouted, "Call the doctor now." Clara stumbled backward as more nurses rushed in. The room filled with urgency. Hannah gasped for air, her gaze flickering desperately toward Clara. Clara reached for her hand. "I'm here," Clara cried. "Please hold on, please." But Hannah's grip loosened. Her eyes fluttered. The machine's beeping sped up, then slowed. A doctor burst in. "Move aside." Clara stepped back, shaking uncontrollably. The doctor worked quickly, issuing orders, but Clara felt the truth sinking like a stone in her stomach. Something was terribly wrong. Doris hurried into the doorway, breathless. "Clara, what's happening?" Clara turned to her, tears streaming down her face. She's slipping. Something's wrong. She wasn't like this a minute ago." Doris's eyes widened. "Clara, tell me everything," she said. Clara held up the folded document. "She gave me this. She said I wasn't safe. That Michael." Suddenly, the monitor flatlined. A long, sharp sound filled the room. "No pulse, start compressions," a doctor yelled. Nurses moved frantically. Clara covered her mouth, backing into Doris's arms. Doris held her tight, whispering, "Stay strong, child, stay strong." But Clara felt her world collapse. And then, as the room swirled with urgency, chaos, and the fight for Hannah's life, a figure appeared in the doorway. Michael. His eyes found Clara instantly. Then they dropped to the paper in her hand, and the look on his face turned from shock to something far darker. Michael's eyes locked onto the folded paper in Clara's trembling hand, and in that moment, the entire room seemed to freeze. Doctors and nurses rushed frantically around Hannah's bed, the flatline screaming through the speakers, but Michael's focus was fixed on one thing. Clara had something he never intended for anyone to see. Doris instinctively stepped in front of Clara, shielding her with her body. "Stay behind me," she whispered. But the damage was done. Michael's mask had slipped completely. Beneath the polished billionaire exterior was a man cornered and terrified of losing everything. "What are you holding?" Michael asked, his voice low and dangerous. Clara clutched the paper harder. "It's from Hannah. She wrote the truth." Michael stepped forward. "Give it to me." "No," Clara said, surprising even herself. "She wanted me to have it. She said I wasn't safe with you." Michael's jaw clenched. "Clara, you're panicking. You don't understand what's happening. Give me the paper." Doris raised her hand. "Take one more step, Michael Walker, and I swear." But the doctor suddenly shouted, "We've got a pulse, weak but steady." The flatline shifted into an unsteady beep. Everyone exhaled in relief, everyone except Michael. He stared at the machines, horror dawning on his face. Hannah wasn't gone. She wasn't silenced. And she might wake up again. Clara saw the realization hit him like a blow. He couldn't talk his way out of this. He couldn't bury the truth anymore. Hannah had already told Clara too much, and her written statement could destroy him. Michael turned back to Clara with a shifting intensity, pleading, desperate, then suddenly cold again. Clara, listen to me. If that paper gets out, if anyone believes it, not just I, but you will go down. They will paint you as the jealous mistress who wanted my wife gone. That's not the truth, Clara whispered. It doesn't matter what the truth is, Michael snapped. His voice echoed across the room, startling even the medical staff. The public loves a villain, and you, pregnant, young, poor, are the perfect target. Clara flinched, but something inside her hardened. No, she said quietly, not anymore. Michael stared at her, stunned. Doris stepped forward. You don't control her anymore, Michael. She's not lying for you. A security guard hurried over. Sir, the police are on their way up. They want to follow up with Mrs. Walker. Michael froze. Everything was closing in. He turned to Clara one last time, his voice trembling, not with sorrow but with fear. Clara, please, think of the baby. Think of what happens if you do this. You need me. Clara held his gaze. For the first time since the affair began, she didn't see the charming man who whispered promises in the dark. She saw the man Hannah warned her about. A man who lied. A man who manipulated. A man who would sacrifice anyone to stay on top. I don't need you, Clara said softly. My child doesn't need a father like you. Michael's face collapsed. Then the police entered the hallway. Mr. Walker, we need to speak with you regarding new information Mrs. Walker provided before she went into distress. Hannah had spoken again. Clara's heart leaped. Michael backed away. This isn't the right time. My wife is in critical. One officer stepped closer. Sir, now. The billionaire who owned half of Atlanta, who walked with confidence and power, suddenly looked small. He glanced once more at Clara, the girl he thought he controlled. Clara didn't look away. Slowly, Michael lifted his hands, not in surrender, but in acknowledgement that he had lost control of the narrative. He turned and followed the officers down the hallway. Clara let out a shaky breath. The nightmare was unraveling, but not her. She was still standing. Doris hugged her tightly. You did the right thing, child. You finally saw him for who he was. Clara nodded, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. Hannah saved me, even after everything I did. Doris squeezed her shoulders gently. Sometimes the people you hurt are the ones God uses to pull you out of darkness. Clara looked down at the folded paper again. Hannah's handwriting, Hannah's truth, Hannah's courage. Do you think she'll survive? Clara asked in a trembling whisper. Doris sighed. I don't know, but she fought to wake up for a reason, and she made sure you had the truth. The doctor stepped out of Hannah's room. Hannah is stable for now. If she wakes again, she may be strong enough to give a full statement soon, but she's not out of danger. Clara nodded slowly. Can I see her again? The doctor smiled gently. Not yet, but she asked for you before she collapsed. That means something. Clara felt warmth settle in her chest, sad, heavy warmth. Doris wrapped an arm around her. Let's go home, Clara. My home, you'll be safe there, and you'll rest. You've been fighting all night. Clara leaned into her. As they walked down the hallway, Clara placed a hand on her abdomen where her child grew, fragile, innocent, undeserving of the chaos surrounding them. She whispered softly to her unborn baby. I'm going to protect you, I promise. A promise she meant with every breath. Behind them, Michael was led into a private room with the detectives. Ahead of them, Hannah fought silently for her life. But for the first time, Clara stepped into her own future, one not dictated by fear or secrets, but by truth. The doors slid open, and the night air met her face. A new beginning. A painful one. But hers. And whatever came next. She would face it with strength, she never knew she had.
Thank you for watching Black Race Tailies. Remember, every story carries a lesson, and every lesson carries our legacy. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and share this story with someone who needs its message today. See you in the next tale.